Welcome to the Deep Dive, the show where we slice through all that information overload, we sift through the data, and, well, we try to deliver you the most important nuggets of knowledge and insight on the topics that really matter.
That's the goal.
And today, we are plunging headfirst into the wildly surprising and often utterly disorienting world of Zach Cregger's latest horror film, Weapons.
Yeah, this one's generated a lot of talk.
Right. Now, if you're anything like me, your ears immediately perked up when Cregger's name came up. I mean, hot off the heels of his incredible breakout hit, Barbarian.
Thinking about Barbarian, what a ride that was.
Exactly. That film was just, wow, a masterclass in unexpected twists. It blended genuine terror with this, subversive humor in a way that really felt like it was redefining modern horror.
Totally agree. He set a high bar.
He really did. So when Cregger promised that Weapons would be something truly unexpected, maybe even more ambitious than Barbarian, the anticipation among horror fans just went through the roof.
Understandably so.
And judging by the critical reception and, crucially for our discussion today, the box office numbers, it looks like he not only delivered on that promise, but maybe even exceeded it in ways we're still kind of processing.
Indeed, the buzz around Weapons has been, well, undeniable. So our mission today is to thoroughly unpack its critical reception and its fascinating and, frankly, very impressive box office performance.
Okay.
We want to arm you, our listener, with all the information and insights you need to make a truly informed decision. Is this a film you absolutely need to drop everything and rush to the theater for, experience it on the big screen?
Or is it maybe okay to wait?
Or is it one you might be better off saving for later, perhaps a less immediate viewing? We're going to navigate through, well, a really diverse array of perspectives. We've got in-depth critical analyses, some glowing, some more nuanced. We've got raw audience reactions, and, of course, the hard financial data that paints a very clear picture of its commercial success. Basically, we're asking, see it or skip it.
And we've pulled some truly fascinating nuggets for this deep dive into Weapons. We've got comprehensive insights from major publications like Mashable, Chicago Reader, The Verge, The Ringer, giving us a broad and, sometimes conflicting critical spectrum.
Which is always interesting, right, when the critics don't all agree.
Exactly. And then, to ground all of that in real-world impact, we'll zoom out for the bigger picture. We've got hard numbers, audience sentiment data from industry leaders like Deadline and Rotten Tomatoes, plus, the essential production details from Wikipedia.
So a good mix of sources.
It's a full, rich stack of information designed to help us and, by extension, help you truly get to grips with what makes this film so unique and whether it's worth your time and money in the cinema.
And at the very heart of our discussion lies this central, compelling question. Why are some critics and audiences hailing Weapons as this innovative masterpiece, a clear box office success, a film that elevates the genre?
Yeah, you hear that word masterpiece thrown around.
Right. While others, equally respected voices, feel that its ambitious narrative, despite its initial promise, ultimately falls short in its execution. Maybe even dissipating the very mystery it so brilliantly builds up at the start.
That's the tension.
It's a compelling dichotomy, definitely.
Yeah.
And we're going to explore what drives those contrasting viewpoints, helping you understand where you might land on this undeniably intriguing new horror entry. Is it a must-see event, or potentially a slight letdown after the hype?
Okay, let's unpack this enigma then, starting with the chilling, almost mythological premise of Weapons. The film drops you into Maybrook, Pennsylvania. And it's very specific. 2.1 high M.
That time itself is unsettling. Why 2.17?
Exactly. And this is when 17 children, all from the same third-grade class, inexplicably vanish. But they don't just disappear. They seemingly run away in unison, arms outstretched, like some eerie, synchronized exodus into the unknown.
Arms outstretched.
Oh.
Wow, that's a visual.
It really is. And the truly unsettling part, the detail that instantly hooks you, is that only one child, a boy named Alex, remains behind. It's a setup that immediately just digs its hooks into your primal fears about, the safety of children and the unexplained.
What's truly fascinating here, beyond the premise itself, is the brilliant way this unsettling setup is delivered. You hear this matter-of-fact narration by a young girl, Scarlett Schur, and her voiceover is peppered with these natural, almost hesitant phrases like, I guess, or like that. It's not your typical polished, cinematic narration at all.
No, it feels very raw.
Exactly. It transforms the story from just a film plot into something far more insidious,
Mm.
Like a local legend, a chilling tale passed down through a community haunted by this inexplicable loss.
Yeah, like folklore.
It's an immediate immersion into the folklore of Maybrook. It
Yeah.
makes the fantastical feel disturbingly real, as if this is a story that's been whispered for generations, growing more terrifying with each telling.
And that visual she describes, those kids charging into nothingness, it's not just disturbing, it's instantly iconic. Deeply disturbing image. Mashable brilliantly points out how it evokes the Pied Piper, right?
Oh, absolutely. The Pied Piper instantly comes to mind.
That sinister, almost hypnotic charm luring children away. It's a centuries-old fable of innocence led to doom. It sets this tone of surreal, almost folkloric horror right from the very first moments. It hints at a menace that transcends simple jump scares.
Yeah, it's deeper than that.
It makes you wonder what kind of dark force could compel such a unanimous silent departure. What are we dealing with here?
That image is so crucial because it really embodies Zach Cregger's signature style, which, as you said, really came to the forefront with Barbarian.
Definitely.
If you're familiar with his previous work, you know he has this unique knack for being, as the reviews say, sometimes funny, sometimes gory, always twisty.
Always twisty is the key phrase there.
Right. And Weapons is no different in that regard. If anything, it maybe amplifies those qualities. Cregger reportedly aimed for this to be a true horror epic.
An epic, huh? That's ambitious.
Very. One that's both wonderfully surprising and deliberately designed to disorient audiences with what he calls head fakes. Those sudden narrative shifts or misdirections that just expertly pull the rug out from under your expectations.
Yeah, you never feel settled.
Exactly. It ensures you're never quite comfortable or confident about what's coming next. This isn't a director who wants you to feel safe in your seat, that's for sure.
And his background, famously in sketch comedy with Whitest Kids You Know, you can really see how that informs this masterful, sometimes jarring blend of humor and horror.
It really does. That timing, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. He's explicitly stated he's aiming for strong, involuntary responses from the audience, whether that's a sharp intake of breath from fear, a genuine laugh of catharsis, or, that classic bewildered, what the F reaction.
Which the Ringer notes becomes almost a mantra while watching this film.
Right. It's about eliciting an immediate, visceral reaction, something that bypasses your intellectual analysis in the moment, making the experience intensely personal and unpredictable.
His approach certainly keeps you off balance, which leads us directly into the film's innovative, nonlinear, multi-perspective narrative structure.
Okay, this is key to understanding it.
It really is.
Yeah.
Cregger openly cited two cinematic giants as inspirations, Paul Thomas Anderson's Magnolia and Akira Kurosawa's Rashomon.
Wow, okay, high aims.
Yeah. And you can genuinely see that influence woven into the fabric of Weapons. The film constantly splits its time, jumping between various nonlinear viewpoints, each introduced with his own character title card. So we follow Justine the teacher, Archer the father, Paul the police officer, and others.
What's truly ingenious about the structure, I think, is how it's intended not just to unfold a story, but to add these layers of depth and context that go way beyond a simple whodunit.
It's not just about finding the kids.
No, it's not merely about solving the mystery of the missing children. It feels like it's meticulously building out the entire unsettling town of Maybrook, painting this portrait of a community grappling with unimaginable trauma. And it takes the story in these increasingly unexpected directions.
Mashable even describes how Cregger pulls off these Barbarian-esque switches again.
Huh.
Cutting from one horrifying character-focused scene to something completely discombobulating and shocking,
Bam, just like that.
leaving audiences utterly blindsided every time he loops in a new perspective. It keeps you on the edge, constantly reevaluating what you thought you knew. You can't get comfortable.
No, you really can't.
Exactly. And what's particularly effective is how each new perspective doesn't just add a piece to the puzzle. It often shifts the very genre and tone of the film itself.
Oh, that's interesting. How so?
Well, for instance, Justine's section, where she's living alone in this large house receiving increasingly threatening messages, it masterfully transforms the film into something kind of like a classic slasher.
Right, building tension through isolation, paranoia.
Precisely.
Hmm.
Then Paul's section often feels more grounded, more psychological, portraying this character spiraling in a way that initially seems almost removed from the film's broader supernatural scares.
Until it connects?
Until Cregger eventually, and very cleverly, connects everything back together. This constant genre bending ensures the audience is perpetually on edge and continually discombobulated. You're never quite sure what narrative rules or even horror rules you're playing by.
So it creates this feeling of persistent unease. You have to stay actively engaged, just trying to piece together the shifting reality.
You really do. You can't passively watch this movie.
It's clear Cregger wants to keep you guessing, disoriented, and emotionally responsive throughout, which brings us to the critical reception Weapons has garnered. And it's been overwhelmingly positive.
Yeah, the scores are pretty staggering.
When we look at the aggregate scores, they are incredibly strong, almost unheard of for a horror film, really. On Rotten Tomatoes, it boasts a phenomenal 94% positive rating from, 310 critics?
310, yeah. That's a lot of reviews.
That's a solid sample size. And the consensus there is unequivocally glowing. They praise Cregger for spinning an expertly crafted yarn of terrifying mystery and thrilling intrigue, and they declare that it solidifies his status as a master of horror.
A master of horror. After just 2 major films in the genre, really.
That's not just a good review, that's basically a coronation, right?
It really is.
Yeah.
And that sentiment is powerfully echoed on Metacritic. The film received a highly coveted score of 81 out of 100.
81. That indicates universal acclaim.
Exactly. These aren't just good scores. They're truly exceptional, especially within the horror genre, which often gets, critically dismissed.
It does. So this tells you that a significant, diverse, and discerning portion of critics are genuinely deeply impressed by what Cregger has achieved here. They're seeing it as something far beyond typical genre fare.
Yeah, this level of praise suggests a film that really transcends expectations. It's hitting a nerve.
Let's delve into some specific glowing reviews because they really paint a vivid picture of why people are recommending you see it. Mashable, for instance, calls Weapons a riotous, unforgettable ride.
Unforgettable. That's a strong word.
And they offer perhaps the best advice any reviewer could give for this film. The best way to prepare for its thrills is to simply not prepare at all.
Huh. I love that. Just go in cold.
Right. That really speaks to the film's wild, unpredictable nature. It demands to be experienced without preconceptions, doesn't it?
It really does. And Empire magazine, in a pretty rare move, awarded Weapons a perfect 5 out of 5 stars.
5 stars from Empire. Wow.
Yeah. They boldly stated that it's something that shouldn't work, but does. And they posed this genuinely provocative question. Can a film about missing children and grief be called a crowd pleaser?
That's a tough tightrope to walk.
It is. But they conclude, in Zach Cregger's hands, it feels almost effortless. That's incredibly high praise. It suggests a masterful and delicate handling of incredibly sensitive, potentially exploitative material.
And transforming it into something accessible, even enjoyable.
Without trivializing the horror, yeah. That's the trick.
And IGN, they give it a near-perfect 9 out of 10, hails it as a righteous, fully actualized genre bender.
Fully actualized? That sounds confident.
It does. And they specifically note that Cregger hones Barbarian's blend of unbearable tension and dark humor to a new level of razor sharpness. So this isn't just a repeat performance.
No, it's seen as an evolution, a refinement of his unique cinematic voice.
RogerEbert.com also gave it a very strong 3.5 out of 4 stars, called it a superior follow-up to Barbarian, which is saying something.
High praise indeed.
And they specifically praised its abject refusal to connect every dot in the manner that so much elevated horror has done. They appreciate that it doesn't over-explain.
Which, interestingly, becomes a point of contention later, doesn't it?
Exactly. We'll definitely get to that. It's a fascinating split in opinion.
What's also incredibly important to note, and adds another layer for the see it argument, is how critics praise the film for its unexpected thematic depth. It's not just scares.
Right, there's more going on beneath the surface.
Mashable, for example, astutely points out that the film tells a relevant story of a community in crisis. It draws these stark, unsettling parallels to the aftermath of real-world school shootings.
Oh, wow. How so?
With its surreal gun imagery and the poignant image of Maybrook Strong memorials, which uncannily echo phrases like Uvalde Strong or Parkland Strong that have become, well, tragically familiar in recent years.
Oof, yeah, that grounds it in a really uncomfortable reality.
It's clear the film isn't just about some monster. It's tapping into very raw, current anxieties about safety, community, trauma.
And The Verge really drove this home, offering a profound insight. They noted that the film builds on that contentious dynamic, that idea of a community under stress, to make a point about how communities often conjure up convenient boogeymen to blame,
Instead of looking at the real issues.
rather than confronting the things that actually endanger children.
Exactly. This perspective, which is uniquely enabled by that Rashomon-inspired multi-perspective structure we talked about.
Right, because you see things from different angles.
It subtly encourages critical thinking about what kinds of people tend to be labeled as threats to children and why that is. It's not just jump scares. There's this thought-provoking, almost satirical core that dissects societal responses to tragedy and fear.
Making you question your own assumptions about blame and safety. That's pretty deep for a horror movie.
It really is.
And beyond the deeper themes, the film's sheer craft and the performances of its cast have also received significant, widespread acclaim. That's another big check in the see it column.
Yeah, the technical skill seems undeniable.
Reviewers consistently highlighted Cregger's effective balance. You got the heart attack-inducing jump scares, those sudden, startling moments that make you leap out of your seat.
Gotta have those in horror. Right. And then you've got the slower burn frights. That creeping dread, the unsettling atmosphere that builds over time. These moments are skillfully interspersed with well-placed comedic beats.
The humor again. For catharsis.
Exactly. Crucial catharsis amidst the mayhem. It allows the audience a momentary breath before plunging them back into terror. This precise tonal control is really becoming a hallmark of Cregger's evolving work. It shows a mature understanding of audience manipulation in a good way.
And the cast truly delivers, elevating the material beyond, typical genre fare. Julia Garner as Justine, Josh Brolin as Archer, Alden Ehrenreich as Paul. They're particularly noted for their compelling performances.
Bringing drama within the genre film to life. That's a great way to put it.
Yeah, the raw emotion they convey, the palpable sense of confusion, fear, desperation, especially in those key high-stakes scenes, it's absolutely vital to making the character-driven elements shine amidst all the surreal horror.
Their grounded portrayals really anchor the audience amidst the escalating absurdity, don't they?
Completely. And cinematographer Larkin Seipel's work also garnered praise, particularly for his unnerving shots of the missing children and the overall arresting visuals that contribute so much to the film's distinctive, unsettling atmosphere.
Seipel doesn't just light a scene. He crafts these visual compositions that really enhance the disorientation and dread.
How so? Like specific techniques?
Well, think of the way certain frames might feel claustrophobic, even in open spaces maybe, or how shadows are used not just for obscurity, but to suggest an unseen presence. The film isn't just well-written and well-acted. It's visually striking and meticulously designed to keep you off balance. It looks great, which matters for a theatrical experience.
Okay, so we've heard a lot about why Weapons is being hailed as a must-see, why critics are pretty much falling over themselves to praise it. Big arguments for seeing it in the theater.
Definitely. The case is strong.
But as with any truly ambitious film, especially one pushing the boundaries of the horror genre, there's always another side to the coin, right? A different perspective that acknowledges its strengths but maybe finds some weaknesses.
Always. No film is perfect for everyone.
So this leads us to the, wait, should I skip it? Perspective. Addressing some of the nuances and criticisms that have emerged, which might make you pause before buying that ticket.
And the core critique, articulated quite pointedly by publications like the Chicago Reader and the Fur Wrap, really boils down to this single potent idea. The mystery is better than the explanation.
Okay. The classic problem.
Right. While the film undeniably builds an incredible amount of suspense and intrigue with its initial chilling premise, some critics felt that the movie's final section, once the answers start to come, well, it drags.
Drags. Or feels less exciting.
Or feels less like a thrilling climax and more like cleanup rather than climax.
Yeah.
It's described as insisting upon audience hand-holding and systematically draining the mystery that made the prologue and those early disorienting acts so compelling and terrifying.
So the magic wears off once you know what's going on.
That's the argument. And what's the profound implication of that critique? For these viewers, the gratification of finally getting answers simply doesn't outweigh the sheer power and pervasive terror of that initial enigma.
I can see that.
The Chicago Reader specifically notes that the initial reveal itself isn't wholly satisfying, and the extensive time spent filling in the details after the reveal ultimately casts the joys that came before in a disappointing light.
So it retroactively makes the earlier parts feel less special.
Potentially, for some viewers, it's almost as if, by defining the monster, you make it less frightening, less a figment of your deepest fears, and more just a concrete, albeit fantastical, entity. You're given the answer, and for some, it's just not as powerful or terrifying as the unknown they had conjured in their own minds.
Right. Sometimes the not knowing is scarier. Could you maybe elaborate a bit on what that explanation actually is for listeners who might want that spoiler to help them decide?
Sure, absolutely. So if you're okay with knowing the core reveal, the plot summary clarifies that the disappearances are tied to this figure named Gladys.
Gladys.
Okay. Who is initially presented as Alex's kind aunt, but is revealed to be, well, an ancient immortal witch.
A witch? Okay, that's
Yeah.
specific.
Her ritual involves using her own blood, personal items, hair from her, targets the kids to essentially weaponize them, turn them into these docile, obedient drones.
Weaponize them. Hence the title, perhaps.
Possibly, yeah. She instructed Alex to gather items from his classmates like their name tags from cubbies. Then she casts a spell that draws them all to his house, where she intends to feed off their life force.
Yikes. Okay. So how does it resolve?
Well, the climax involves Justine the teacher and Archer the father battling these hypnotized characters, including Paul the cop and another character, James. Justine actually ends up shooting them.
Whoa.
Yeah. Ultimately, Alex, having figured out Gladys's magic, essentially copies her spell to turn the children against her.
Ah, using her own magic against her.
Exactly. Which leads to her rather brutal death, and the children are eventually reunited with their parents, though obviously shocked and traumatized. So for critics who really valued that ambiguity and the inexplicable nature of the initial setup, this very concrete, fantastical explanation felt like it deflated that earlier terror.
I can definitely see how that might divide people. It's a very specific kind of supernatural explanation versus maybe something more ambiguous or suggestive.
Precisely. Then there's the criticism around sort of tonal overkill and maybe stretching the thematic depth a bit thin. The Ringer offers a more critical take.
What did they say?
They describe weapons as a supersized showcase that ultimately spreads its maker's gifts thin. The idea that more is actually less.
Okay, so too much going on.
Potentially. They argue that the film's epic scale and its convoluted nature, packed with these lurid, absurdist details, can sometimes feel like Cregger is trying maybe a bit too hard to top his peers and himself, without always rising to the occasion or serving the narrative effectively.
Trying to outdo Barbarian, maybe?
That's the implication, perhaps. It's an interesting and nuanced point about creative balance. The Ringer suggests that while the film's extended sketch feel that nod to Cregger's comedy background can certainly be funny and entertaining, it doesn't always cut deep as satire. And they also raise concerns that its handling of child in peril anxieties might be perceived as less subversive than weirdly reactionary.
Reactionary, how so?
Well, it's a significant critique.
Yeah.
It implies that instead of challenging or maybe recontextualizing these anxieties about kids being in danger, the film might, for some viewers, just amplify them or use them for shock value in a way that feels less progressive.
Less thoughtful, maybe?
Perhaps. It leads to this provocative idea they floated. That Cregger might be a filmmaker who knows what he's doing, but not necessarily why.
Yeah.
Like a conjurer working on autopilot under his own spell. Suggesting technical brilliance, but maybe without always having a clear thematic purpose behind it all.
Wow, that's a pretty sharp critique. Technical skill without the why.
It is. And to provide a truly balanced and comprehensive picture for you, the listener, we also need to acknowledge that not every single person in the audience was won over, despite those overwhelmingly positive aggregate scores.
Right, there are always dissenting voices.
Exactly. While they represent a distinct minority, some negative audience reviews on Rotten Tomatoes specifically found the film horrible, confusing, or an absolute waste of money and time.
Ouch.
Yeah. With comments like, nothing to top it off in the end. So while critical and audience scores are remarkably high overall, there's definitely a small segment of viewers who felt genuinely let down. Perhaps for some of the very reasons those more nuanced critical takes described, like the ending or the complexity.
So not a guaranteed hit for absolutely everyone, even with the great scores. That's fair.
Which brings us to a crucial element in determining whether to see it or skip it, particularly from a pragmatic standpoint. The box office performance.
Okay, let's talk money, because that often tells a story too, right?
It absolutely does. And despite some of these critical nuances and those minority audience opinions, Weapons has been an undeniable, resounding financial triumph. No question about it.
Really? The numbers are that good.
Yeah. As of August 15th, 2025, the film has grossed an impressive $108.3 million worldwide. And that's against a production budget of $38 million.
Wow. Okay, $38 million budget, over $100 million gross. That's a clear, significant financial win for Warner Bros. Demonstrates strong profitability for an original horror concept, which isn't always easy.
Exactly. It's a massive success by any measure, especially for a horror film that's not part of some pre-existing franchise.
And how did it start off? Did it have a strong opening?
Remarkably strong debut. It grossed $5.7 million in Thursday previews alone, which signals intense early interest.
That's a good indicator.
Definitely. And then it went on to pull in an impressive $43.5 million in its opening weekend, which wasn't just good, it topped the entire box office #1 film.
43 million opening for
Yeah.
this kind of film? That's huge.
It is. And what's even more impressive, and really a testament to Warner Bros.' recent strategy, is that this opening made them the first studio in history to have 6 consecutive films open at #1 with over $40 million.
6 in a row, over $40 million? That's a serious hot streak in Hollywood.
It really is. And Weapons, maybe unexpectedly for some, is a key part of maintaining that incredible run.
How did it hold up after that big opening? Because horror can sometimes drop off fast.
It held up quite well, actually. It demonstrated strong holdover power, which is critical for a horror film's long-term success. Its second weekend performance was projected at $22 million.
Okay, so that's a drop, but how much of one?
It represents a very respectable 49% decline from its opening. While a drop is always expected after a huge opening, especially for horror, a sub-50% drop is quite good. It indicates sustained interest and positive word of mouth beyond just the initial fan base.
So people were telling their friends to go see it.
Seems like it. For comparison, its first week total of $64 million. Now, that put it 17% behind Sinners' first week, and Sinners ultimately had that huge run, ending at $278.5 million worldwide.
Okay, so behind Sinners.
But, crucially, it was also a significant 29% ahead of Get Out's first week. And Get Out finished its run at a remarkable $176 million domestically.
Wow, ahead of Get Out at that stage. That's some impressive company.
Very impressive company. So this suggests that Weapons is tracking somewhere solidly between these two highly successful and critically acclaimed horror films in its final global gross. It's performing extremely well.
Now, you mentioned deadline comments. There was some discussion there about audience scores. Because sometimes people are skeptical, right?
Yeah, a fascinating discussion popped up, which we always keep an eye on. It was about the reliability of audience scores, especially seeing these strong box office numbers for Weapons.
What were the scores?
The film received a cinema score grade of A. That's typically given through polling people on opening night as they leave the theater.
A-. That's really good, especially for horror.
Very good. And Post-Track, another polling service, gave it 4 out of 5 stars, with 65% of polled audiences stating they would definitely recommend it. So, by all accounts, very positive audience sentiment, widespread enjoyment indicated there.
Okay, so the scores matched the box office, suggesting people liked it, but there was skepticism.
There was. So anonymous commenters voiced skepticism, articulating that common, though often unsubstantiated sentiment that critics, Rotten Tomatoes, even CinemaScore, are somehow paid off to give glowing reviews.
The conspiracy theories.
Right. They pointed to drops for other films, like the Fantastic Four reboot, as opposed proof, arguing, if Fantastic Four truly got an A, why did it drop so sharply in subsequent weekends? They claimed this proved word of mouth was actually negative and the scores were misleading. It suggests this deeper distrust in established critical and audience metrics for some people.
So what was the counter-argument to that? Because an A cinema score usually means pretty good legs.
Well, the counter-argument, articulated by others in the comments, is quite compelling and offers valuable insight into how these metrics actually work. For one, CinemaScore is described as this rigorous, anonymous, card-based system.
How does it work exactly?
They give out these cards at random theaters across the country, usually in major metropolitan areas, on opening night. This makes it incredibly difficult, if not impossible, to pay off in any systematic way.
Okay, so it's designed to be hard to manipulate.
Exactly. And secondly, the argument is made that opening weekend audiences are often self-selected. They're the highly invested viewers, the most enthusiastic fans who've been tracking the film, bought their tickets early. They're already predisposed to enjoy it.
The diehards.
Pretty much. They've gone out of their way, maybe paid a premium for opening night to see a movie they really want to see. So their initial reaction is naturally going to be more positive than the general public who might see it later, maybe based on those scores or word of mouth. They're essentially the film's core cheerleaders, giving that initial grade.
That makes a lot of sense, actually. The A reflects that initial super enthusiastic crowd.
And this touches on the broader, evolving influence of streaming services on theatrical attendance. As one astute commenter put it, people are already paying for numerous streaming subscriptions.
Yeah.
Amazon, Apple, Disney plus Netflix. Paramount Plus, Sky TV, whatever.
Yeah, we're all juggling those.
Right. This abundance of content impacts their disposable cash and fundamentally changes how audiences choose what to see in cinemas. Films like Weapons might be perceived as true movie events that genuinely encourage theatrical attendance
Because they offer something different.
because they offer a unique, communal, big-screen experience. With its jump scares, its disorienting shifts, that blend of humor and horror, it truly differentiates itself from the vast streaming library you have available at home.
So you want to see that kind of movie with a crowd.
That could explain why early audiences for Weapons were so enthusiastic. They chose to be there, maybe specifically for that shared experience, and the film delivered on that specific theatrical promise for them. Hence the A.
That's a really good point about the event nature of certain films now. To put Weapon's impressive box office success into further context, we can look at Nobody 2, which opened around the same time. How did that do?
Right, Nobody 2. It had a projected $9.25 million opening with $1.3 million in previews. It also had strong audience and critic scores, 82% from critics, 92% from audiences on Rotten Tomatoes.
Okay, so solid numbers for Nobody 2 as well indicates a healthy market.
Definitely. A solid performance shows there's an appetite for action films with good word of mouth, but Weapons' significantly larger opening weekend, remember, $43.5 million versus $9.25 million, and its impressive lead at the box office. It just further underscores its truly remarkable commercial triumph in the current competitive marketplace.
Yeah, it really stands out. It's genuinely performing at the top tier, especially for original horror.
No doubt about it.
So we've meticulously dissected the critical arguments for and against Weapons. We've drilled down into the undeniably robust box office numbers. Now let's hear directly from maybe the most important voice of all, the audience themselves.
Yeah, the people actually buying the tickets.
Because ultimately, their experience in the theater is probably the single biggest factor in whether you, our listener, should see it or skip it. And the overwhelming sentiment from those Rotten Tomatoes audience reviews is, well, in a word, incredibly positive.
Like, really positive. What are people saying?
Viewers used phrases that conveyed genuine excitement and satisfaction. They called it genuinely surprising, well acted for a horror movie, which is always kind of a backhanded compliment, but still.
Huh. Yeah, good for a horror movie.
Right. Extremely well put together. Many simply described it as fun and scary and original, straightforward, powerful endorsement.
Can't ask for much more than that.
Some even went as far as calling it one of the best movies of the year. All caps. 3 exclamation points.
Okay, someone was enthusiastic.
And declared it so much more than I expected. This isn't just passive liking of a movie. It feels like an enthusiastic, almost evangelical endorsement. It speaks to a truly impactful viewing experience for a lot of people.
What about that blend of tones? Did audiences react well to the horror comedy mix?
It's truly unique, and it's repeatedly highlighted in these audience comments. One viewer vividly described yelling obscenities out loud from fear, only to find themselves laughing out loud just moments later, making it this uniquely scary and hilarious experience.
Well, whiplash.
Total whiplash. It's that tightrope walk that Zach Cregger evidently masters with surgical precision, consistently delivering those involuntary responses he aims for. It proves the audience is genuinely along for the ride, whiplash and all. That tonal dexterity is clearly a major draw for viewers.
And the storytelling itself, beyond the twists.
That also garnered significant and consistent praise from the audience. Comments included absolute masterclass in storytelling, praise for breathing fresh life into a plot that isn't particularly novel, highlighting Cregger's ability to infuse originality into maybe familiar horror tropes.
So execution over premise, maybe.
Could be. Reviewers consistently noted that the pacing was spot on, expertly balancing those quieter, tension-building moments with the high-octane scares and comedic beats. This ensured that every scene has purpose, every moment holds weight.
Nothing feels wasted.
Exactly. It indicates a very deliberate, effective, and economical narrative construction that keeps viewers constantly engaged and invested from beginning to end.
What about the acting? Did the audience pick up on that too?
Absolutely. The acting, once again, shines through in audience comments, echoing the critics' praise. Performances were outstanding, with the cast delivering authentic and nuanced portrayals.
That's great consistency between critics and audiences.
It really is. When both critics and the broad audience are independently highlighting the quality of the performances, you know, the raw emotion, the character grounding, the ability to navigate those complex tonal shifts, it's an incredibly strong indicator of the film's overall artistic and emotional strength.
Yeah, proves the cast truly elevates Cregger's ambitious vision. They make it work. And crucially, and this is a significant point for our see it or skip it mission today, many audience members explicitly recommended seeing Weapons in theaters.
Ah, that's important. Why?
Well, it reinforces the idea that its unique impact, those disorienting twists, the immersive scares, those shared moments of laughter and gasps, is best experienced on the big screen, surrounded by a communal audience.
Right, feeding off the crowd's energy?
Exactly. This ties directly back to that movie event concept we discussed earlier. It suggests that the film's unique blend of scares and twists truly benefits from a collective theatrical viewing, making it a powerful argument for rushing out to see it now, not waiting for streaming.
Okay, that's a very strong point in the see it column, especially see it now. Of course, in the spirit of absolute fairness and providing a complete picture for you, our listener,
Gotta have the other side.
we need to acknowledge the minority of audience members who weren't as impressed. While they represent a small percentage, some comments did find the film horrible, confusing, or disappointing.
Echoing some of the critiques.
Yeah, with comments like, nothing to top it off in the end, very much echoing some of those critical sentiments about the film's divisive ending, or maybe its overall narrative complexity. This ensures a truly balanced view, recognizing that not every film is for every person, even a critically acclaimed and commercially successful one like this appears to be.
Absolutely. It's good to have that full context. So, as we bring our deep dive into Zach Cregger's Weapons to a close, let's circle back to our central question, the one we set out to answer for you. Should you rush to the theater to see it, or is it a film you might want to skip?
Okay, the final verdict. Based on the overwhelming evidence we've unpacked, from the near universal critical adoration, the really robust box office numbers, and the overwhelmingly positive sentiment from a vast majority of audiences, the answer leans heavily, almost unequivocally, towards see it.
Seems pretty clear-cut based on the data.
Yeah, Weapons is undeniably a critical darling and a significant commercial success. It's lauded for its bold originality, its unpredictable and expertly executed blend of horror and comedy, and truly strong, memorable performances from its cast.
And that theatrical experience element seems key too.
It really does. It's the kind of movie that seems explicitly designed to deliver a unique, communal theatrical experience. One that elicits gasps of fear and bursts of laughter in equal measure, leaving you both unsettled and thoroughly entertained. That sounds like a reason to go to the cinema.
However,
Yeah.
there's always a however. It's also important to remember the nuance. And this is where you can tailor your expectation before deciding.
Okay, what's the caveat?
This is a film with an ending that can divide its audience. We saw that in the critiques. For some, the eventual explanation of the mystery, while fantastical, might not live up to the chilling, captivating power of the initial enigma that Cregger so masterfully builds in the film's earlier sections.
If you love the mystery more than the answer, maybe temper expectations.
Exactly. And for a few, its ambitious, epic scale and those relentless tonal shifts might feel stretched thin, leading to a sense that perhaps more is actually less in terms of its overall impact. So while the recommendation is overwhelmingly positive, maybe temper your expectations if you prefer your horror mysteries to remain largely unsolved, or your narratives perfectly contained, or maybe your cinematic experience to adhere to more traditional genre conventions.
That's a fair summary of the potential drawbacks for some viewers. So, what does this all mean for the broader landscape of horror and filmmaking? Where do we leave our listeners?
Well, here's a final provocative thought for you to mull over. What does the polarizing nature of Weapons ending, where some find satisfying clarity and others find a disappointing deflation? What does that, combined with its undeniable box office success and overwhelming critical praise, reveal about what audiences truly crave in the modern horror landscape?
Is the journey more important than the destination now?
Maybe. Is the journey of disorientation, those shocking twists, and the thematic exploration now more important than a perfectly resolved mystery? And what does Weapons' success tell us about the evolving relationship between the art and commerce of cinema in an age of abundant information and diverse viewing habits? Are we prioritizing experience over neat conclusions?
Fascinating questions. Does a film have to tie everything up perfectly to be a hit, or is the thrill of the ride enough?
Exactly. We leave you with those thoughts to ponder until our next deep dive.